I am that guy. I'm the one that calls social services on unwitting families. As a parent, I know that this kind of intrusion is among the most unwelcome of events that can happen. Yet I still do it. I know that every parent out there is going, why? How could you do that? The answer is, I must. 10 years ago, a friend, former roommate of mine, was convicted of killing a 2-year-old girl named Cassidy. I hope he didn't do it, but I know that somebody did it. The official autopsy report said that Cassidy was beaten so badly that her internal organs were liquefied, and yet nobody helped her. I didn't know Cassidy, but I don't know if I would have. There were signs of abuse in the few weeks leading up to her death, and yet nobody did anything to help the most innocent of people that could not help themselves. And this disgusting, unnecessary death is the germination of my belief. And that is that if there's even a scintilla of a doubt that a child is in danger, I will do anything to help them. You should too. You have a responsibility as a human being to protect those that cannot help themselves, and you need to do so without regards to how it will affect you. Every child deserves an advocate, and that advocate should be their parents. If it isn't their parents, it's going to be me, or you, or nobody. Today I will not only discuss the kinds and prevalence of abuse, but also how to recognize the signs of abuse. Remember, the abuse exists in every facet of our society, which means that not a person who stands here today is free from this responsibility. According to the 4th National Incidence Study of Child Abuse and Neglect, 1 out of every 50 children each year is a confirmed victim of abuse or neglect. And that same study for the United States Congress says that 1 out of 25 is the more accurate number. Think about that. That means there's 1 million children out there today who are going to be abused this year, and nobody's doing anything to help them. That means that in your child's classroom, there's most likely one child who's being abused. Does anybody here not know 25 children? Can you realize that one of them is most likely the victim of abuse this year? Couple that fact with the information that nearly 40 children are 40% more likely to be abused or neglected if their parents are unemployed. And you can see that now is the time more than ever to pay attention to the children around us. In the United States, neglect is the most common form of abuse at nearly 60%. Other kinds of abuse are physical, sexual, and emotional. While some of these may seem worse than others, the kind of abuse should not make a difference in how you respond. In her book, Child Abuse, A Community Concern, Kim Oates tells us that each of these can have devastating and long-term effects. 80% of the people in prison today were the victims of abuse. And 40% of the victims of abuse today will grow up to abuse their children, creating a downward, never-ending cycle that destroys our youth for generations. The question becomes, how can you tell if something is wrong? The first thing to realize is that a single sign of abuse does not mean that abuse is occurring. Kuroda Waniak's The Emotionally Abused and Neglected Child tells us that if you see signs over a prolonged period of time, then it is definitely cause for concern. The following is some examples of what to look for if you suspect abuse. Lack of adult supervision, reluctance to return home, a child with an I don't care attitude. Even a nervous and withdrawn child can suspect an abuse. The easiest kind, of course, to recognize is physical. Unexplained breaks, burns, cuts, even a child wearing a long-sleeve shirt on a hot summer day. The book Interdisciplinary Perspectives in Child Abuse and Neglect tells us that sometimes even observing the parents of a child can suggest that something is wrong. If you see a parent that's talking badly about the child, thinks that the child should care for them, seems to blame the child for all problems, and is not interested in the problems that the child has, then neglect or abuse can be taking place. And the most important thing to realize here tonight is that if you suspect abuse, do not wait. Report it. I understand that this is a hard decision to make, but consider the ramifications if you don't. If you suspected a child that you knew might be the victim of abuse and they died tomorrow night, would you be able to sleep? I know that I couldn't. Remember that abuse can be emotional, physical, sexual, and even take the form of neglect. And in all likelihood, Everyone here tonight knows a child that's being abused now. Every child deserves an advocate, and that advocate should be their parents. But if it isn't, it will be me. It will be you. Or it won't be anyone. Now, many communities throughout our country, this next month is Awareness Month for Abused and Neglected Children, take pinwheels and place them at a busy intersection, with each pinwheel representing a child that they have helped this year. If you drive by that in your community, stop, get out, and really take a look. Look at them sitting there lonely, twirling in the wind, and think about all the children who don't have a pinwheel. Because nobody was willing to help them. So yes, I am that guy, and you should be too. Thank you.